Just one day before the anniversary of 9/11, one of the most tragic and polarizing events in U.S. history, we were greeted with yet another tragedy, with the passing of Charlie Kirk. And just like the previous tragedy, these recent events may be used to usher in new technologies and new laws, to usher in a new surveillance state and a new control state. The U.S. Treasury just announced that they're making sweeping reforms to the Bank Secrecy Act in the Patriot Act 2.0. We're on the brink of major change, and we're going to break down what that means for you, what that means for Bitcoin, and what it means for the future of freedom in the United States. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Let's go. Hey, before we begin our segment for today, I just want to be human and acknowledge the recent events that happened over the past several days. I've been shocked, saddened, and surprised by the things that went down. Moments like these are visuals and images that get stuck in your head forever. I remember being in 6th grade, being let home from school, and seeing my dad cry for the first time on the events of 9/11. And the events of the DC sniper happened just around my house. So much so that all of the sports in my middle school years were canceled. We couldn't go outside and we couldn't practice. And just like then and now, we have two options: be naive and respond in fear, or be resolute and respond with faith. We can either be the glue that chooses to mend and heal relationships in our country, or we can be a wedge that continues to drive further division between people, politicians, and parties in this country. That choice is available to you in very small ways and big ways. The world will not heal on social media. It was never designed to heal us. It's going to happen in living rooms, coffee shops, and churches all across this country. It's going to happen with people who were all created in the image of God, despite what they believe or what they look like. But let me get back to our show and what I think is happening, just like after the wake of 9/11, when they implemented the Patriot Act. Since 9/11, the Patriot Act has significantly shaped our financial world. In 2001, we saw the financial system usher in new things like KYC, AML, the sharing of data between public and private entities without anyone's consent or control. Entities that we didn't give permission to are now allowed to censor and collect information in the name of terror. Companies like Palantir were funded during this time. When they couldn't get any capital from VCs or anyone else, agencies like the CIA stepped in to be their first funders. In fact, from 2005 to 2008, well, they were their only customer. And now these technologies are embedded into all of the systems that we use every day. They give people the ability to retrieve information from you without any of your consent. This isn't science fiction, it's science fact, and I don't think that it's going away. And now the United States government intends to enact more sweeping reforms to the Bank Secrecy Act, allowing them to not just control information in the physical realm, but also the digital realm. On September 9th, Andrea Gacki, the director of FinCEN, and giving the United States Treasury the ability to censor crypto transactions. So the Special Measures to Fight Modern Threats Act grants the U.S. Treasury the power to censor a transaction without the public knowing or without their consent. Issued in 2022, gives the United States Treasury the ability to censor transactions without any public notice or consent under the authority of the Patriot Act. And in this scope, any global transaction or Bitcoin transaction, which by its very nature is global because it is a global decentralized blockchain, can in fact be censored by the United States Treasury. These are any transactions that involve multiple people, wallets, or addresses, meaning anything that happens on an exchange. These are any transactions that have to do with any pooling or mining of resources, aka any Bitcoin mining transaction. They're allowed to censor any transactions that have anything to do with programmatic code, aka decentralized blockchain technology like Bitcoin. They're allowed to censor any transaction that has any created or single-use wallet address, anything that has to do with time-locking coins, or any exchange between crypto and any other digital asset. So they're effectively creating a policy to blanket censor anything that they can or deem unlawful in the future. And this is ironic that Tether just announced their new USAT, or United States Stablecoin, being led by Bo Hines, the executive director that worked for the President Donald Trump. Here's a new commercial for their new stablecoin, USAT.
Money's supposed to move fast, but in real life, it crawls.
The bank says it will take 3 business days.
3 days to get my money?
Yes, 3 days. Because clearly, your dollars are hitchhiking across the border. Also, look, so many shiny cars. Yet it takes a PhD to choose which works.
Maybe you can lend me your PhD then.
And yes, nothing says modern economy like losing to a dollar bill. And the bank asking nonsense just to let you have your money. But what if I told you you could access your money without the middleman?
What do you mean?
Meet USAT. $1, but just more practical. A stablecoin backed one-to-one with liquid and stable reserves. pay instantly. Paid in seconds, not days. Because the internet doesn't need business days. Remittances that actually arrive before your family wonders if you forgot them. USAT is your money, in your control. USAT, the power of the dollar at internet speed.
Their website says that they have dollars that move without intermediaries. Pure freedom, they say. They say that it is the power of the dollar in your control. Well, newsflash, if it has anything to do with the dollar and it's digital, it is not in your control. Your ability to transact or spend freely in a cashless society is now dwindling away from an ability and right that you had before to one that you are permitted to have in the future. And there's an entire generation of people who are going to be willing to accept a new digital dollar if it means that there's opportunity and freedom in the economy. And this is the sad part about the manipulation of money. In a recent Rasmussen report that came out on September 4th, the results are shocking. 53% of young voters say that they would vote for a radical socialist leader. 76 believe that major industries like healthcare, energy, and big tech should be nationalized so that there can be equity for all people. But you can understand why people feel this way, because the system has been unfairly rigged between the ZIRPs and the ZIRP nots. What is the ZIRPs? Well, these are anyone who have benefited from the zero interest rate policies that were enacted between 2000 and 2020. Anyone who owned wealth versus the people who are trying to build wealth now. And that isn't just coming from me. The United States Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, just released an article in the Information Economist where he's talking about the Fed no longer being an independent monetary actor. The Fed is going from people that are able to implement crisis management tools for people that are enacting a new regime of policy that is designed to help the rich get richer. Or as Scott Bessent says, towards a policy of socialism for investors and capitalism for everyone else. He explains how the rich got richer, the rich being the people who owned houses, when the United States Treasury and Fed jumped in to buy $2 trillion worth of mortgage-backed securities after the Great Financial Crisis. This created the divide that is fueling and kindling the fires between people of different political parties, views, and backgrounds today. And it shouldn't be discounted as we look at the unrest that's happening in front of our eyes. Bitcoin just happens to be one of the only assets that we have to allow people to benefit not only from whatever policy that comes next, whether it's a zero interest rate policy regime or whether it's a high inflationary decade, which most people believe that it will be. It also is one of the only technologies out there that represent property rights, privacy, and freedom for the average person in the new digital surveillance and control regime that we're entering into. And that's why we have to celebrate small wins. Wins like Gemini going public. I know that they offer a bunch of other crypto tokens, but the Winklevoss twins have been talking about Bitcoin since 2012, and they hope that more people listen to them in the decade to come.
Quite the road. When we first started talking about this, I want to say back in 2012, maybe 13, did you think you'd be sitting there and doing a public offering like this?
Short answer is absolutely yes. We actually looked it up. I think the last time we spoke to you was when we launched Gemini in 2015 in October, so almost 10 years ago today. And I think the price of Bitcoin was $380. And so we've come a long way, but we also think it's still very much the bottom of the first inning because we see Bitcoin trading at $1 million a Bitcoin if it disrupts gold. And we think Bitcoin is gold 2.0. And I think we said the same exact thing to you about 10 years ago today. So we think there's easily a 10x from here. And it's still really early. And I think we'll be sitting here 10 years from now and looking back and saying, wow, today was really early.
And I think few people actually listened back then. So hopefully more people listen today.
And that's the idea that we've been trying to get across in this channel, that Bitcoin is an escape hatch. It's a way for you to get out of the system, whichever policy or regime comes forward. And if you had this asset that had this dual capability, then why would you sell it? Which is why we've partnered with Ledn, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans, which allows you to unlock liquidity in your Bitcoin without selling your Bitcoin. Ledn has been the leader in digital Bitcoin-backed loans since 2018, issuing over $9 billion worth of loans to people like you and me without any credit checks. Well, the process happens in less than 6 hours after your application, which takes just 2 minutes to fill out. Get started with interest rates as low as 12.4% and get 0.25% off your first loan by going to learn.ledn.io Bitcoin.com/simply. Bitcoin is rewriting the existing financial system, but it also gives everyday individuals like you and me the power to be sovereign, to remove our property rights from digital exchanges, which are continuing to be more surveilled and more controlled. It is the only asset out there that allows us to have true control and true sovereignty. Well, you can learn how to do this confidently, safely, and securely by getting a coach at the Bitcoin way, who will help you to understand how to take freedom of your financial assets through Bitcoin. Schedule a free 30-minute consultation with their team today at thebitcoinway.com/simplybitcoin. Every time there's a major event happening globally, gold tends to sniff it out. And right now, gold smells something in the air. Right now, central banks hold 22% of their reserves in gold, when historically that number is between 10 and 12%. They understand that crisis is on the horizon. And Bitcoin is at the beginning stages of dematerializing gold as a digital store of value. Michael Saylor gives a brilliant explanation of Bitcoin as a technology and digital capital in his latest presentation that he gave at H.C. Wainwright earlier this week.
Tech investors, Philippe Lafont has designated Bitcoin like the number 3 interesting tech idea in the world. It used to be, before 2020, people thought, well, Bitcoin, it's a crazy crypto speculative asset. And as long as people think of it as a crypto casino speculation, it's never going to get respect to the mainstream. When you start to look at it as digital capital, I took $1 billion block of gold, I dematerialized it, I moved it at the speed of light, I vibrated 1 million times a second, and I distributed it through 1 billion microprocessors. That becomes very interesting to people that made billions of dollars investing in Google and Apple and Amazon and Facebook. And of course, where is all the money in the world? A lot of the money in the world is people that bought the Mag 7 at the right time. So Bitcoin as a technology is much more compelling than Bitcoin as a speculation or even as an ideology.
Bitcoin represents a savings vehicle that not only dematerializes physical assets like gold, but it also represents the only asset out there that allows us to maintain any semblance of freedom in this world of digital surveillance and control. I hope you can see what's happening, and I hope that you're making decisions in light of this future that is coming. Respond in faith and not in fear. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking. Oh, before you go, if you haven't already booked your flights or your tickets to the Mining Disrupt Conference, the largest Bitcoin mining expo conference in the world, well, do so and use the promo code SimplyBitcoin for 20% off your tickets. That's the Mining Disrupt Conference happening from November 11th through November 13th in Dallas, Texas, using the promo code SimplyBitcoin at checkout. Thanks for watching the video. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.